Hi, I'm Nate. I'm a professional statistician and data analyst. And on this episode of the Data Beta, we'll be looking at the Oscars and a few of the statistics behind them. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'll be going over some of the most controversial wins in Oscar history from my own personal opinion. So let's go! Let's start at the source of the Oscars. How are these movies and actors actually getting nominated? Well, it's decided by a group of over 9,500 members of the Academy, which consists of actors, directors, and crew members. These voters are divided into 17 different branches, which roughly correlates to the type of awards given out in a specific year. But this is the first place where people find bias in who gets nominated for Oscars. Only 33% of voters are women, and only 19% of voters come from underrepresented minority groups. Is this source of bias real? Reasonably. A further study would be nice to see if these inequalities in the voter population actually translates to different movies getting nominated over others. Likely, that is the case. But just because there's a correlation between white movies getting nominated and a lack of white people in the voting pool does not mean that there's actually causation there. Correlation does not equal causation, and that's the first rule of statistics. People have also noticed what is commonly referred to as Oscar bias. Simply put, Oscar bias is where the Oscar voting committee seems to favor period drama films over other type of genres of films, like action movies and horror movies. There was actually a study done back in 2014 about the effects of Oscar bias and which movies appeared to be getting nominated more. Here are the results of the study. R-rated movies appear to be gaining more nominations than other rating of movies like G movies or PG-13. They also find that movies with directors who were previously nominated are more likely to get nominated. This is not true for actors and actresses, though, who were previously nominated. It seems to only be applying to directors. Another thing that's interesting to point out is movies that are released later in the year, like in November or December, seem to be more likely to get nominated for an Oscar. These movies are sometimes referred to as Oscar bait. Oscar bait is where a movie is released specifically to be nominated for an Oscar, and then they can get money from that nomination to fund that movie. Some movies don't need it, some movies absolutely need it, and that's called Oscar bait. Is Oscar bias real? Reasonably. Is Oscar bait real? Absolutely. If you stick around to the end of this video, the movies that I'll be going over that I find super controversial are usually Oscar bias and Oscar bait. And I'll also point out when the Academy actually changed the rules for nominating movies based on these specific movies. Is bias a good thing for the Oscars, or is it a bad thing? Well, many people find it's a bad thing because the bias stops their favorite movies from getting nominated for awards that they think they deserve. Well, let's think about this for a second. If we're in a perfect world, where the Academy has no bias, then what's the point of giving out a Best Actor award or Best Picture of the Year award? You might as well be, for each award, putting all the movies' names in a hat and just drawing a random movie for the award. That doesn't make any sense. People need bias to determine what's the best in this very subjective artistic category. That being said, the collective bias that is often being criticized for the Oscars nominating committee is something that needs to be addressed, because collective bias means that it's not reflecting the true demographics and true interests of the population that they're supposed to be representing. In fact, the public have not been responding to the nominations and the winners of the awards very positively in recent years. If you take a look at the view count for the number of people watching the Oscars ceremony on a given year, that view count has gone down 67% since 2000. That is a large difference in the number of viewers that used to be watching the Oscars to now. And I think it's from people who are just upset that their favorite movies aren't getting into the Oscars. How's that for a slap in the face at the Oscar Awards?
Oh, wow! Wow!
Bohemian Rhapsody is the first movie on my list. I loved that movie when it came out. I loved seeing it. I got the DVD, so I watch it every now and then. It's a great movie. But the reason why it's on this list is because the year it was released, it got the Oscar for Best Editing. Now that is an insult to editing, honestly. It should be the Oscar for Most Editing, because it has the most jump cuts unnecessarily in some of the worst scenes. Like the scene when Queen was talking to its manager about releasing Bohemian Rhapsody. There's over 60 jump cuts. That is an embarrassment to editing, and it should not be the winner of Best Editing for that year. King's Speech is second on my list. It won Best Picture of the year the year it was released. Now, the reason why it's on this list is because it's a clear demonstration that the Oscars committee favors dramas over other genre of film. King's Speech is definitely a drama, and me personally, I thought Inception was a way better movie than King's Speech that year. I watch Inception all the time, but it didn't win Best Picture over King's Speech because it's not a drama. The Reader is next on the list. Now, The Reader is a historical piece known to be what Oscars like to nominate for, but it's also a clear example of Oscar bait. It was released December 12th of that year, right at the very end of the Oscar voting period. Now, that is a clear demonstration of Oscar bait, and it won Best Picture because of when it was released and the topic it was covering. Both King's Speech and The Reader forced the committee to change the rules of how Best Picture is nominated because of how apparent the bias and the bait is for those pictures. The last video on my list is The Green Book. Now, I've heard The Green Book is a good movie. I've never seen it personally, so having it win Best Picture isn't completely out there, but look at what it's up against. It was released the same year that Black Panther was released. Black Panther, that Marvel movie that became a cultural phenomenon of how great it is. I personally loved Chadwick Boseman playing T'Challa. He nailed it. To have Green Book just win over Black Panther is a disgrace. It's completely ignoring what the culture thought was the best picture of the year, clearly. That's all the time that I have for today to talk about the Oscars and a few statistics behind them. If you like this video, please submit a like and subscribe to my channel so that I know you want more videos like this in the future. If this video gets enough likes, I will do a part 2 Oscar video where I dive deep into the historical Oscar data and see what I can come up with to show you guys. If you want to see the 2014 study that I referenced in this video, the link will be found down in the description, as well as a historical data table containing all of the Oscar nominations and winners.